Ladies and gentlemen, while you are taking the translation equipment, I would first of all like to thank very much the organizers, the Catalans, for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to share what I have been going through, what a number of other countries have been going through while searching their way towards the information society. The introduction about myself revealed probably to you more than my wife knows about me, and it has been a very extensive work you have been done. My good friend and colleague Manuel Castells has always said to me that if you speak before the lunchtime, make sure you don't steal time from people to have a good lunch. And only thing between you and the lunch is me with my presentation. Lunch is not important because of the food, but most important because of the conversations. And what I would like to give is an kind of appetizer for the lunch discussion. My presentation today will be focused on the utmost important question of 21st century, not only in the schools, not only in the companies, organizations, but also in the government level. And this is a good old Shakespearean question: to be or not to be. Transferred into a 21st century context, it sounds to E or not to E. And E does not mean electronic, but E means using the technology, using the opportunities around the technology, using the different environment where we are living right now to make sure that all our goals can be met faster and more inclusively. We can often imagine what, when we look to the sky, we see a lot of stars. We can imagine what we look when Martians travel around the world and look at us. And this is a short picture, small picture of Northern Africa, Europe, Middle East, Arab countries, Asian countries. And we can see that number of countries have different intensity of those night dots. There are different regions which have different intensity of those dots. But in traditional 20th century industrial society, those dots were the places where over 95% of the value added was accumulated, and almost 100% of decisions were made. The technology is giving us right now an opportunity to shift that balance and give also an opportunity for smaller places. Everybody in the audience always is looking for his home city, home country, home region, how it's compared to others, and we build artificial boundaries, borders in between the countries, in between the regions. However, when we take a look from information technology perspective, there is no difference in countries, there is no difference in locations. It's about how you use the technology. And my country, Estonia, quite up in the north, pretty snowy right now, and good cross-country skiing tracks, has a different way of adopting the innovation. This picture is from a rural village in the end of 19th century, and that young boy saw in the school library a picture of a bicycle, people driving a bicycle, a real bicycle, and he had an idea to build also a bicycle because, well, he didn't have an opportunity just to go and buy one. So he used an accessible tools, and the bottom line is that creature is not, of course, a breakthrough in the bicycle innovation, but it's something which worked for the purpose. And it worked downhill very well. and it worked very well when somebody was pushing it or pulling it. And when we take a look what and how you can harmonize it with the history of innovation, innovation is not the competition about ideas, but innovation is how you implement the idea, how you make your idea into reality, and what you learn when you are implementing the idea. It's a learning process, and when you learn also from failures. If your idea is unique and nobody else has done it before, then there is a high probability that you fail, and you can learn from the failing. When Estonia regained its independence from Soviet Union, most said that you can survive maximum 3 months as an independent country. You have no economy, you have no government, you have no central bank, you have no border guards, you have nothing. And what we understood is that when it's discussion about restarting something, regaining something, a restart is not enough. Also, when you think about technology, if your old technology requires constant restarting, it means that something doesn't work. It means that you need to upgrade in order to have a better functionality. Restarting brings you back to the same infrastructure, same technology, same functions, and maybe gives you a short time period when it functions again. Upgrade is what is needed, and upgrade gives always an opportunity to rethink what is really the intention of your activities. I'm not too good about speaking and keeping my kind of memories in the past, rather focusing on try to manage the present and attempt to look about and work about the future. But I will give a couple of short stories about the past of Estonia when we tried to make sure that we can survive as an independent nation state, as an independent country, and make sure that our goals, our people benefits are set first. When Estonian Prime Minister went to his office after regaining the independence, after the first official elections in Estonia, he was sent to the big, nice room. Right now it's a parliament building in the old city of Tallinn, and in that room, secretaries were showing, this is your waiting room here, and this is your actual office, and it was a big table, and Prime Minister said, wow, what a nice view, and big table, and then he saw that there were 6 phones on his table. And he said, wow, so many phones, and he said, but there are phones without a dial also on the table. What are all those 6 phones for? And secretary said, Mr. Prime Minister, we don't know. Those phones were here when we regained our independence. And Prime Minister said, well, okay, but if the red phone without a dial starts ringing, who is calling? And secretary said, Mr. Prime Minister, we don't know. Should I answer? Yeah, of course, Mr. Prime Minister, then we know who is calling, who owns that line. When we regained our independence, in short, we had on top of each other a different old Soviet telecommunication infrastructures of the Communist Party, of the military security, of the KGB, of the trade union, of the railway, and we did not know where they are all connected to. That infrastructure did not give us any opportunity to restart our country. We needed immediately to upgrade. And one of the first goals was very clearly to establish a modern telecommunication infrastructure, to use fiber optics, and to start issuing immediately mobile telecommunication licenses. During the process of early years of building up our own systems, we quite often did not make things better than they used to be, but it was ours. People hated what was, and people liked what is new. And people learned to like also the fact that when you do something new, you sometimes fail. And if government and politicians admit that they can also fail, they can also learn and do new things, does not mean that things always work out. But if you demand innovation from your government, you have also to find the ways how to accept and tolerate that not all things immediately work, that your country is actually in beta version, if we speak in computer terms. But people find a good connection with what is made by us, made for us, and that is a social momentum what needs to be well used and utilized. Very quickly we recognized that if we can't do everything with our capabilities and budgets, well, the first state IT budget for Estonia was less than $2 million. With that money, in 1994, we were able to go and have an excursion to the mainframe computer biggest factory and to smell, but not even to touch the mainframe computer. With that money, we were not able to buy any good quality data communication protocol. So we started to use PCs because we didn't afford to have on mainframes, and we started to use a strange data communication protocol which worked also on the old robust copper infrastructure called TCP/IP, nowadays known as Internet, because it was free, it worked. And very quickly something started to happen also worldwide. People started to realize that Internet is something more than thing for the academicians and universities, but it could be used also in other areas. And we secretly found ourselves that we have had made the right decision at the time without knowing Internet will be so big and PC architecture will be so important. We started to invest immediately to one location which is the future, and that is schools. Putting computers to all the schools and connecting them with Internet without even a proper e-education content and without even teaching all the teachers how to use IT was still, in my mind, a good decision, because what we had immediately children who started to learn how to use computers, how to learn Internet, how to use Internet, and they are very different generation. If 100% of a certain generation has skills, new functional skills, it's a huge difference for all the society. Later on, we also, already by the end of the century, we started to make sure that not only the schools will be equipped, but also everybody. So we started to make tours where trucks full with computers were driving from city to city to make one-day big public lectures, making sure people know how to use email. In 10 days, over 10% of society subscribed first time in their life to email. And they are still, sometimes it's strange to think that those old domains are still used, even now when we have Google, Gmails, and any other mail correspondence, they are still in use. In 10 days, the subscription to different education or government content increased 5 times. And those small events dedicated to local activities were also, President was participating over the video call, encouraging people also to use internet. Why to use internet? Because for a small nation, internet makes you bigger. If your trade balance in traditional world is negative, you are doing bad. In information and knowledge economy, your trade balance should be negative because you can gain access to the knowledge pool of the rest of the world. And the days were full of fun, and that tour was continued several years. And most importantly, out of those people who never have to use in their job computer, we had an opportunity to transfer those people post-education, no computer use at work, no computer use at home. We were able to transform 25% of employment market towards a new functional skill in less than 2 months' time. It's possible in a small country, but it's also possible wherever, if there is a goal that is driving you towards a future which is based on the shared values. We understood very quickly, very soon, that those not only technologies but also practices and mental models which we were using won't last forever. You need continuous innovation. It can't be so that you say that this is a PC, I install it, we put the computer software on it, and this is working well. The technology landscape is changing very quickly. My children, age 15 and 13, during their school years have been living already through 3 different technological generations: PCs, laptops, tablets, and now bring your own device. All the children bring their devices to the school to participate in biology or in the nature or in any different other lessons, doing different group works, and technology is changing faster and faster, and we need to understand that those tools which made us happy 5 years ago and which took us here won't take us there where we want to move ahead. In 2000, I would say it was a breakthrough time when we were able to say that everybody in Estonia had an opportunity to access internet. Those who don't have computers at home, for them there were public internet access points, libraries, municipalities, schools, and even traffic signs. You still can find those traffic signs in Estonia, which were showing that there is a public internet access point somewhere in the middle of nowhere, where you can go and use computer free of charge connected to internet. It was considered as a human right. If you want to deliver your services over internet, you need to give also people access to internet. Thing which we did not know would be so important is related to security and trust in information society and electronic services. If in 2015 governments are still talking about making sure that access to internet and internet services has to be secure, then I would say it's too late and too little. It's more action needed right now than discussion. In 2000, everybody in Estonia started to have an ID cards which have also a small chip built to it to make sure that if you want, you can authenticate legally, you can sign your documents legally, and you can communicate not only with your government, but also in between yourselves. You can also make business-to-business transactions, do online banking, to use one secure digital tool which is approved by everybody and which gives you a higher level of trust and security to all the services around. And finally, if government uses IT, the purpose is not only to make sure that the government can use IT for efficiency gains, but also for the transparency gains. The big gap between people and government can be breached if there is more and more transparency bounded into those different transactions. Making government cabinet meeting decisions available to public in less than 10 seconds online was a very small and tiny issue from the technology perspective, but it was very important for media and for general public to know what government is doing, when they are doing, who is voting how, and it calms down society also in the very tense times. And when we had a comparison in between the different municipalities, it was strange that mostly it was my students who were analyzing and saying that it's amazing how little you can achieve if you don't try at all. It's also, of course, it's an ironic approach to discuss about different organizations, but yes, we recognize that everybody who tried achieved something, and those who have not achieved anything, they haven't tried at all. Trying means thinking, means focus, and by year 2003, we were ready to say that all information generated in public administration is generated by computers, and there was only one place still left where there were papers lying around, and that was a government and cabinet meeting. Together with Prime Minister moving to the new office, there was also an opportunity to rethink the way how all government is working. And very quickly we had a nice debate saying that, well, let's make government meetings paperless. It was the middle of the year, it was end May. And of course, you know, in the middle of the year, in the end May, there is no budget line for the idea which has not been as an idea for the budgeting purposes available in the last year when the budget was made. So we discussed and argued with State Secretary, who said that if you can save money from copying the papers, you can take that money and build the IT system. If it won't work, you have to pay it back yourself. So we, with a small consortium of local IT companies, we took the challenge, built the paperless cabinet IT system for the ministers in less than 3 months during the summer holidays. And when ministers came in August to start testing it, they were satisfied. We reserved 1.5 hours per minister for training. They required maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Since that, we were afraid that there will be a change in the government. Estonians have a national sport called changing the governments. We do it as often as possible, and it's always a lot of fun. But we were afraid that there is a new government coming and throwing those computers away, saying that we are not kids, we are serious government, we do serious work, and computers are not needed. But those computers have evolved into next system, and then to the next system, and then to the laptop system. And now our government is working on bring your own device environment, signings and voting over electronic channels, and still debating very, very lively about the political issues. And the technology is not killing democracy, but adding more substance to that. And finally, most important part, what we learned when we were building a government IT system is that if government is going around and asking people and companies to be innovative and to use new technologies, and government itself is not making any new ideas into reality, is not innovative, then people soon won't believe you. You can't preach if you don't practice. If government wants to show the role of leadership, it's not only words. It needs also to be actions, and those actions need to be very focused on making good government work. Next layer, of course, is thinking how you can afford, as a small country, still our state IT budget is smaller than a Catalan state budget. And still we have to run all the central government functions as well. It might be easy to say that the words thinking open, having a focus, deliver fast are just the buzzwords, but if they are embedded into the public administration daily practice, if they are actually the public administration service development culture, it could be much, much easier. We had a question and debate about, for example, how those small ID cards could not be turned into a situation where government is actually monitoring me, having a big brother around me. Very simple, we turned it around and made people actually to become a big brothers, or say a small brother watching a big brother. Whenever you log into the government portal, you can see who is a civil servant and when has accessed my data in different registries. And we made sure that all the different registries are interconnected together by one layer, which is secure layer, we call it X-road, crossroad, through which different databases interact to each other to make sure there is a quality of service, but also, most importantly, that no query will be made about nothing without having a trace to be monitored in the future. Trace about civil servant making a query about any individual can be found. And yes, there have been positive cases. We had one election cycle ago, suddenly in our capital suburb, all non-Estonian pensioners received a card from one candidate on the elections. Weird how that candidate knows the addresses of all the non-Estonian pensioners in that suburb. It took less than 20 minutes to find out who was that civil servant who made a query from the databases, and it took less than half an hour for police to start the process of formal investigation about that. And yes, it took more than a couple of months for court to process that case, but it's very clear that no civil servant can't access private citizens' any business data without cause, without a reason. Different visions about the way how the future should be built. Best practices of different governments and organizations are often shared. There is another area what we have been learning ourselves is that you can't learn nothing from the best practices of other countries. Best practice is the worst teacher. Success is full of blind factors which you don't know. Every country has a different social, cultural, economical, political, regulatory environment, and when particular technology is adopted at that country, it has so many non-technological factors which are more important. So it's not even the mistakes that others made that can teach you. Not your own success that can teach you, but most importantly, you learn from your own mistakes. And only those who do something can do mistakes, and only those who make mistakes can learn something. So it's yet another time to call for an action, especially a local action. It's not too much to hope for one single person, chief technology officer of the government or chief information officer of the government. It's not one office, but it's a culture that needs to be penetrated throughout the organization. Every head of public administration needs to be also an evangelist for the IT, to believe that IT, and with the help of IT, we can change things. It's not complex. It's only about trying to do things. And I would happily make sure that my presentation today is driving you also towards understanding that on the different countries there are different assets on their balance sheet, on their treasure map. There are some countries with great national resources, some countries with a lot of technology, industrial potential, but when we have taken look back to the last 10, 20 years, we see that countries which have been succeeding are not relying on their natural resources, not relying on their industrial capacity, not on their military powers or political influence, but those who have succeeded have been using that most important asset. It's the asset called vision. Vision about where or who you want to be, and if you have that shared asset in your society, then you outperform natural resources, military resources, political influence, and many other powers. Before I conclude my presentation, I would like to show, or actually I would like myself to know a bit about one thing, how my kids are doing at school right now. And this is an e-school environment. All school children, all teachers, all parents are part of that. It covers everybody who is part of education system, starting from elementary, ending up with late levels of gymnasium. And it's not made by government. It's made and operated by a private company who started as a foundation, who was talking a lot to the schools, what are their problems, what they wish to do, who was talking also about the government. Why won't government do that? And it's very important to recognize one aspect, that vast majority of the publicly used and for public good applications in our country are not demanded from the government. It's a worst-case scenario if you go out and say, government should do something. Why won't government do me something? It's you who have to do something. So it was actually a bunch of IT nerds, school children-ish, student-ish, not big team, 3-person team, who built a system which everybody is connected to. And wow, okay, I can see that this is my son, Karl Johannes, who has just had, in Estonian language today, a big test. I can see this is his result. This is today at 11:42. When he got that, I can see how he is doing compared to the rest of the students. And there were, well, he's doing average in that test. Well, 4 is good, 4 is good, 5 is the best, 3 is moderate. I can see that my daughter was late to one lesson and I can see she was And I know, on 5th of January, she was late because she had a doctor's appointment. She had a flu shot, which I approved electronically to school doctor, because parents have to approve the shots your children are getting at school. And I approved it electronically, and this is being late to lesson with a cause. And I can see that my son has missed, okay, I know. On 7th of January, I know he told me later, they were playing basketball and he forgot his sneakers home. And I know he told me about that. I can see all the things related to the future. I can see what are the upcoming homeworks for my children. This is for tomorrow, English language and Estonian literature. And I can see also what are the future homeworks. I can monitor actually how they are doing their homeworks. Have they done it? If they have marked that this is done, it's done. And so about the future. This is a small example of the public service which can be done in private-public partnership, where the private partner actually is a driver. And this is one of those examples, one of about 600 different services which can be considered as a government service, as a public services, which should be done by government. But why government if I can do it, and if I can make it publicly available, if the operating costs of that system are relatively low, if it's well integrated with the different other systems, and if it's making good for public. I started my presentation today with a question, Shakespearean one, to be or not to be, or to E or not to E. You have already understood that my answer is very clear. My answer is to E. And that E is focusing to the locally developed, well horizontally penetrated, focused on end-user good, focused on end-user services, private-public partnerships, which don't focus on technology, on one technology, but which focus on how we as a country, how we as a society, how we as a city, as a municipality can arrange our things better than we used to do. There is always a room for improvement. Yes, there is always a role for technology, but the focus is social, regulatory, political, environmental aspects, and making sure your society will get what your society deserves. Once again, I'm most thankful for the chance of being yet back in the city I love so much, Barcelona. It's a very different environment, very different mood compared to Tallinn. And I always enjoy being here. Every time I come to lecture at university or participate in the fair, also in a speaking engagement, I also try to contribute a little bit to the potential success of the place I have been. I do hope really that my 45 minutes just before your really important time, the lunchtime, are not the most wasted part of your life, but are contributing to your future success, which I hope sincerely Catalans will have. Thank you so much.